Alrighty then, folks. This is Alan recording another comprehensive Magic the Gathering Arena draft video. I almost have enough gold saved up for another quick draft Theros Beyond Death, but after my first Throne of Eldraine video from yesterday, I think it's time for us to do one more or maybe a little bit more before we go back into Zendikar Rising or quick draft Theros Beyond Death. I like how Magic the Gathering Arena allows us to do these throwback drafts. And yeah, there's still a couple of archetypes I've yet to explore. So let's get this show on the road. And hopefully I don't end up drafting some sort of Izzet control deck again, because I'm tired of drafting those two colors, but somehow the game always wants me to play those two colors. That being said, there's still plenty of viable archetypes in this set. Okay then, let's get started. Throne of Eldraine, Premier Draft. What do we have? The fine pleasure of opening. Always have to wait for the software system to load, and here we are. Okay. Don't hate myself a Bone Crusher Giant, just a very flexible card. The adventure portion is a nice way to deal with a small threat, and then later on you can just cast this for 3 mana afterwards as a 4/3 body, which is definitely a decent creature that can attack and and do a bunch of damage. So I don't mind first taking a Bone Crusher Giant. At uncommon, there's a Turn to a Pumpkin, which is a fine interaction spell, which has some synergies in blue-red, and even then it's just a solid blue card that I'm happy to play in any deck. And at common, there's just a Rose Thorn Acolyte for a little bit of ramp in the green mid-range decks, but here I think it's just an easy Bone Crusher Giant, just a very flexible adventure creature. Can be a powerful 2-for-1, since if you're able to kill something with this and then maybe trade off the 4/3 or have the opponent trade off a removal spell against the Bone Crusher Giant, it generates a lot of value. After first taking Bone Crusher Giant, what options do we have here? There's an Arcanist Owl for the blue-white Adventures deck. There is the Wintermoor Commander for the black-white Knights deck. And then looking at commons, nothing amazing in red, just a Trapped in the Tower as just an okay removal spell, I think. I think white is definitely definitely not super amazing in this set, but Trapped in the Tower can be a fine removal spell I can take here. Given that we took Bone Crusher Giant, maybe we just stay flexible and just take a Trapped in the Tower in case we end up in red-white Knights. I mean, both of these payoff cards are very good, and if there was only one Signpost uncommon here, I'd probably just take it over Trapped in the Tower. Given that there's two, yeah, it's pretty difficult to know which one I want to take here and which one is more powerful. So I think I'm just going to take a Trapped in the Tower and stay flexible, and if one of these end up late in the pack, it's a good sign to maybe move into those colors. Okay, easy. Bacon to a Pie, pretty late in the... Not late, I guess it's pick 3, so it's still early, but it's definitely the best card in this pack. If Bacon to a Pie wasn't in this pack, I'd probably just take Turn into a Pumpkin as a fine removal spell. Cauldron Familiar can have its moments if you manage to pick up a Witch's Oven, which is an uncommon in the set. So you can constantly just sack this and bring this back. So I don't mind just taking Bacon to Pie, stay open. Maybe we end up wheeling the Wintermoor Commander from the last pack, and we end up in black white Knights, or we can still be in some sort of Mardu combination. We'll see. Okay, nothing super amazing in this pack. I guess there's a Barrow Witches which can fetch back a Knight, but you can always pick up those later. So maybe we can just begin taking 7 Dwarves, perhaps. And the more we take these, the more they do add up. So, I mean, otherwise, there's really nothing else amazing in this pack. I guess if I want to miss out on the 7 possibility of getting a million 7 Dwarves, I can either take Youthful Knight or Queen of Ice here, which are also not very exciting cards. So yeah, I guess this is our first pack that has weak cards. So I don't mind just taking 7 Dwarves here, given that I have a Bone Crusher Giant. And yeah, the 7 Dwarves really do add up. The fact that you can have more than 4 copies of any single of cards with cards of the same name in limited is really nice, since if I do pick up more of these, they can become quite outrageous in large numbers. Otherwise, I'd probably just take the Youthful Knight here and move into some sort of Knights deck. Well, I mean, there's just a second 7 Dwarves passed up to us, so I mean, after first taking our first 7 Dwarves, maybe we just take a second one and just move all into our red game plan. Alternatively, there's Doom Foretold, but even in Black-White Knights, I don't really like this card. It has a pretty detrimental symmetrical effect, but I mean, I guess it gives you an upside even if you manage to win that symmetrical effect. You make the opponent discard a card, you make them lose 2 life, you draw a card, you gain 2 life, and you create a 2/2 White Knight creature token with Vigilance. It's okay in my opinion. It's not very amazing. It just doesn't help develop the board, or it doesn't drastically change the board state, and it's pretty much an edict effect, so it's not very consistent. Otherwise, Flutterfox, 7 Dwarves, Clockwork Servant are fine, but I'll take a second 7 Dwarves. And I'll just take a Embereth Shieldbreaker as an above average uncommon in this set. Believe it or not, there's just a lot of artifact creatures that you don't mind destroying, and artifacts in general. So you never know if your opponent, so the opponent will never usually expect it. And then being able to play this as a 2-drop can be pretty solid, since it has some nice synergy. And 1 toughness doesn't get too much punish in this set. There's no real like spells in any of the colors that can besides I guess Zakara. Zakara can deal with 1 toughness creatures and handle them, but for the most part you don't encounter them too much, so it's fine even just playing this out on curve. So I'll take an Embereth Shieldbreaker and see where we end up. But for sure, I think I know I'm going to be in red. I guess if I end up in mono red, I can just take an Embereth Paladin here. Anything else, just nothing exciting. There's some on color lands that have decent upsides if I can have 3 or more tapped. But yeah, mono red can definitely be a thing if we pick up a bunch of 7 Dwarves, if we're trying to enable Adamant for the Embereth Paladin, and if we pick up those red mountains. So we'll see. Late Drowning Lock, too bad it just doesn't share a color with us. Besides that, nothing amazing. I guess a Jousting Knight, Jousting Dummy can be fine if we end up with a more synergistic Knights deck. And we are kind of in the Mardu colors here. We can be in either red-black, red-white, and they're both decent Knight archetypes, so wouldn't want to miss out on a dummy if we do end up in a Knights deck, but we'll see. And I could just take a second one. Alternatively, I could just take my first Scalding Cauldron. I mean, we have a bunch of 2s already. The Cauldron can have some... It's fine. I mean, it's interaction. It's pretty bad removal. I mean, but other than that, I don't think I need a second Jousting Dummy here. I don't need to prioritize a second Jousting Dummy. I'm not really looking to ramp with the Spinning Wheel. So maybe I just take a Scalding Cauldron in case I don't end up with any removal in my mono red deck or whatnot. We'll see. And yeah, Raging Redcap, fine, decent 3-drop in the Knights deck, keeps us in red. Alternatively, there's Wicked Guardian, but most of my creatures tend to look to be small. I guess there's Bone Crusher Giant, which can survive it. But this is a card that's much more better in a grindy controlling black deck, since that's looking to play usually 3 toughness or more. But for now, we'll just take a Raging Redcap and stick to our plan of just drafting red. I don't think I need a second Scalding Cauldron. I don't even really like the Bloodhaze Wolverine, even in blue-red. It seems like a bad card. I guess I'll just take a random Embereth Paladin in case. I don't know. I don't think we'll enable Adamant for Garenbrig Paladin, but there's a chance we end up in the red-green non-humans deck, and it can be a decent curve topper. And same argument, we could end up in blue-red, draw your second card archetype. So we'll take a Moonlit Scavenger. So yeah, I guess we could. I mean, we have a chance of being in mono-red. Or any of the other 2-color combinations, so not sure now what I'm going to take, but I guess I'll just take a Jousting Dummy in this pack, and we'll see. If we don't end up with a second color, I'm fine going mono-red, since mono colors do kind of get rewarded in this set due to Adamant, and also the Adamant mechanic, and also, what else? What other mechanics? I guess the Adamant mechanics, and also like 4-color cards, like, I mean, 2-color cards that can be played in quadruple single color of their respective colors. Okay, so here in this pack, I think pack 1 pick 1 between Edgewall Innkeeper and Paragon Lance. I think the Edgewall Innkeeper has a lot more upside, but with our current configuration and what we're trying to do, I feel like we're going to lean towards more the Knights synergy, and the Black Lens Paragon is excellent. Black Lens Paragon is going to do its best in a Knight's archetype, but still, even outside of a Knight's archetype, you can still flash this in at instant speed on the opponent's turn and block a ground creature and trade for it. So Blacklands Paragons is pretty amazing. We do have a bacon to pie with it. Otherwise, I don't really like Edgewell Innkeeper, and I think the Keeper Fables, even though it's a very good card, is just too expensive if we're looking to be low to the ground and aggressive. So I guess we have outs to be in black-red for the most part. But here, I don't mind just taking a Bargain as a fine combat trick. This is also a pretty bad pack. Fires of Invention, not necessarily playable and limited. The Frogify is like mediocre removal, same with Runaway Together. The Flaccid Intruder, not even that amazing. Even on turn 7, just making 3 2/2s is not great. It's only decent if you have the Lucky Clover to make 6 2/2s bears, but for Bargain has some solid synergies if we're going to be looking to, if we need some sort of pump spell. So we'll take it here. And could just take my first Weaselback Red Cap. Green seems pretty open to with a Once in Future as a nice 2-for-1 in the late game, but it's better off if you can enable Adamant with this too, and it's not a very good card in a aggressive game plan like what we're trying to do. I could alternatively just take a Barrow Witches and maybe hedge my bets towards like a black-red Knights deck, or I can just take my first Weaselback Red Cat, which probably is just a pick here, since if I'm looking to be aggressive, I want to make sure I have at least one of these in my deck, and I'm not even sure if I want to commit to black yet. Just because we opened up a black on color rare doesn't mean I'm going to play it. So, I mean, not an on-color, but a black rare that shares one of our secondary colors. I don't know if I even want to take it, so we'll take the Weaselbacks. Gold Knocker Ogre, not necessarily playable in this set too, since it could actually help the opponent to loot. Okay, that's a pretty late Trapped in the Tower, but what else is there? There's also another Weaselback. Don't think I'm an Adventurous deck for the Lucky Clover. No, definitely not. I guess it can be nice with the Bone Crusher Giant, but this is better in a deck that's trying to utilize more a much more grindier adventure archetype, since it's really on turn 2 you really want to just develop the board with creatures. So between Trapped in the Tower and Weaselback Red Cap, I guess I'll just take a Trapped in the Tower just in case chance I guess we end up in Red White Knights, and the Weaselback or a dime a dozen. Don't need to prioritize them, just take the solid removal spell and white and move on. And yeah, that's pretty late in Probable Lines, although there's just a Scorching Dragonfire. So I'm not even sure if I want to be in blue. I currently, with my red cards, I'm not really focusing on the draw synergies and archetypes. But yeah, this is definitely a good sign that red blue is open. But there's also late Scorching Dragonfire, which is a solid removal spell in our color. So I think that's a pick. And that's a late Grumgully, okay. But there's also, I guess, another late Fairy Vandal. I mean, currently with the red cards, again, we aren't trying to focus on the draw synergies, so I'm not sure if I want to take a Fairy Vandal. I guess there's also Castle Ember I could take, which can be a nice land that can pump my team if I go mono red. Grumgully is pretty strong though, and I can just maybe speculate on it, because if I have a Weaselback Red Cap and a bunch of red cards already, I guess I already kind of have the belt. I don't really care about just having the pump land, to be honest. The Grumgully can do a lot of work if I'm focusing on the red-green non-human stuff. So I guess that's just going to be maybe my secondary choice. Black does not seem very open, and I think I'll just take a Red Cap Melee as a good removal spell in red. And I could just take my first Merchant or the Brimstone. If I'm looking to be aggressive, I believe the Brimstone is the correct choice here. Even in red-green non-humans, there's a decent amount of Knights that I don't mind playing. Like Garenbreak Paladin, maybe some other knights, I don't know. Merchant is better in the blue-red. I could also consider Rosethorn Halberd, but I guess I'll just take an on-color card. And then maybe I can take a Golden Egg. Don't find Return Nature necessarily playable. Queen of Lights is better in more controlling deck, like the blue-red deck. But again, my argument for not being in blue-red is, again, my red spells right now don't really have any draw synergies, and I think my cards are looking to win through damage for the most part and being aggressive, so I don't feel the need to move into blue-red, and I guess I'll just take a Golden Egg, which can be fine. And then, yeah, none of these cards are even great in red-green if we do end up in that archetype. Pretty sad. I mean, if Improbable Alliance was being passed to us, I guess I can maybe just take a random Quarter Monitor. as a ground blocker. Oh, and even the late ones in the future. Okay, maybe I just go into red-green. And there's a chance we could be at least a little bit more mid-rangey with the once in future. Generally not a card that's super amazing in a red-green aggro deck, but it can be a fine 2-for-1 if we make it into a late game and we have a large curve. So, okay, looks like we have a decent signal of where we want to be. So I think we could just we'll just be in red-green if I'm not mistaken. I guess I'll take a blow your house down, but I don't find it necessarily playable. Seeing the late once in future, seeing the late Grumgully is a sign. So, yep, does make me happy to maybe just move into red-green. I would love to open a Thorbrand or an Embercleave, and that would definitely solidify my choice into being in a mono-red deck. But I feel like this is the right choice being in red-green. And here, I could just take another Weaselback Redcap. There's a Toonvale Tree Folk, but it's a bit too expensive. I think pack one, pick one. I would definitely hate draft the Lochmere Serpent. But in a scenario like this, I don't really have an option. I guess I could take the Rosethorn Halberd here. It's not really good with humans, which, which I have a couple, but typically speaking, red-green is a non-humans archetype. And this is just a solid way to enhance our creatures if we're looking to be quite aggressive. I could also still take the Weaselback Redcap, and hopefully maybe I still end up in mono-red. So yeah, I guess I'll take the Weaselback Redcap here. Pretty unexciting first pick, but really, this is just in a real life pod. I would definitely hate draft that card, but not here. And yeah, I guess I'll take my first Ogre Errant just to have a 4-drop. Wouldn't mind a Raging Redcap if I have a way to enhance it with a weapon of some sort, but this is still pretty decent in red-green non-humans, and I do need a 4-drop in this type of deck, so we'll take it here. And, well, that's a nice late Beanstalk Giant, although there's a 7 Dwarves. Beanstalk Giant is quite good. It does help us splash, find our land, and then you can play as a 7-drop later. But, again, I feel like with double 7 Dwarves, 3 7 Dwarves are even better. And I think our game plan is just to, again, be really low to the ground aggressive, and not necessarily mid-rangey with a card like Beanstalker Giant. The only mid-range card we really have is kind of like a Garenbrig Paladin and the once in future. So, yeah, I feel like it's better to just hone into the aggressive game plan of red and not care too much about too many expensive cards. I could just take a second Brimstone Trebuchet. In terms of knights, how many do we have? 9 knights, which is pretty decent. Not an amazing amount, but really we have nothing else to take here. Alternatively, there's another Garenbrig Carver, but it's a human, which doesn't fit with the theme in their deck, and we have one already. So, just take another Brimstone Trebuchet, maybe we just ping the opponent to death, and I'll take 4 7 Dwarves, why not? Hope maybe we even end up with 7 Dwarves, but I highly doubt it since this is pack 3 and it's getting pretty late. So I do like the deck overall. Cards I don't really need to necessarily play is the Once in Future and the Garenbrig Paladin, but I'm definitely happy taking a Rosethorn Halberd in a deck like this. We have 1 Bargain, which is fine already. I could also just consider going mono-red and cutting all the green cards, to be honest. But I feel like the green cards might just add a little bit more diversity in this deck, since the Grumgully seems very strong, so I don't want to give up on it. Let's take a Rosethorn Halberd. It can be a nice permanent, a nice weapon on the battlefield we can use. And, I guess if we go mono-red, we can even play this Clockwork Servant. Garenbrig Carver is, again, not very exciting, so I could just go mono-red. And I could even just take this Thrill of Possibilities to act as some sort of way to loot and draw cards. So we might have missed out on the second copy of Bargain, but that's still fine. So what if we take the green cards out and go something like this? I guess we'll be cutting 5 cards, so we'll be at 22. So I could decide if I wanted Toonvale Tree Folk, or just take a Merchant. Merchant is not very exciting. It does help us loot, but with a Thrill of Possibilities, it's not really something we want. It also doesn't have any great synergies. We don't have any Knights too. I mean, we're focused more on Knights and non-humans, and the Merchant doesn't fit in any of those categories. So I feel like the Tree Folk can definitely be reasonable in a deck like this. And so, I mean, I guess we still have an option of being green for the most part. But the Clockwork Servant does pay us off for being adamant and drawing a card. Now, I guess I'll take a Bargain now. Even managed to get a second one. The problem with our mono red deck is that there's also just not too many not too many top end spells, so no like what is this Bognati still doing in this pack? Some will be pretty happy taking it pretty late, but the Bognati shouldn't be being passed in this pack this late. But yeah, okay, it seems like we probably don't have enough to go mono red, so I'm happy having like at least maybe a splash of green or a hint of green in the deck like this. So what's the game plan? Again, we're just a very hyper aggressive deck. So let's cut our green cards and see how much we have. I mean, I guess we still have a full playable deck. The only problem is that, let's see. Yeah, I don't mind even just going mono red with something like this. The problem is that, I mean, how many creatures? 16 creatures? I mean, the problem is that we're running 17 lands, which can be problematic. I mean, I guess I can maybe even go 16 and, like, Tekken a blow your house down, perhaps. If I add the green cards, what am I looking forward to cutting? Maybe the Cauldron, maybe the Thrill of Possibilities. I like my red cards. Maybe the Golden Egg can go. Maybe the Clockwork Serpent. I don't mind the Brimstone Trebuchets as win cons. Yeah, the problem with the red-green is that it just makes our mana curve really expensive, and I don't feel like I need to do that. I feel like 16 lands is just better. The Clockwork Servant is on curve. We can just keep it simple. We don't have any difficulty casting our stuff, and then I can even run 16 lands and Tekken to blow your house down as maybe some sort of finisher in case I don't get there. And yeah, given our really low curve, I feel like we should just go 16 lands. How many 2-drops we have? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 3-drops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, not the most amazing mono red deck, but it does feel like this is the place to be, in my opinion. Otherwise, we add in a Grumgully, which I'm happy with. Toon Veil can be okay, but a little bit too expensive, and we don't have ramp. Garenbray Carver is just like a mediocre pump spell. Once in future, not something you really want in an aggro deck. It's more like a value card in the late game, and the Garenbray Paladin, we don't have too many ways to enable Adamant, and it's quite expensive too. So yeah, let's try this out and see how it goes. And the picture should be maybe just the 7 dwarves. And yeah, I mean, this deck can definitely get there. I don't doubt it. But it does have the problem is that it's pretty much an all-in game plan. If we don't kill the opponent quickly and they manage to stabilize their food and life gain, we're definitely going to be in trouble. Also, we just don't have a lot of top end in its deck, which we had picked up maybe a Searing Barrage or two, so I wouldn't play a card like Blow Your House Down or even the Scalding Cauldron. But yeah, I think this is where we're supposed to be. Black didn't seem open in this draft. Yeah, we did pick a Bacon to a Pie like Pack 3 pick 1, but black was completely cut off then. Took a Black Lance Paragon, Pack 2 pick 1, but still no black showed up. Blue was kind of fairly open maybe, but none of the real blue cards were anything exciting outside the Improbable lines. And again, I've stated that our red cards played better in an aggressive color pair anyway, so it doesn't really fit well with blue's game plan. And yeah, green was fairly open too, but still the stuff is just too expensive, I think, so let's give this deck a shot and see how it performs. With 4/7 dwarves, we can definitely maybe steal some games if the opponent misses their land drops, or we can just curve out and just kill the opponent with a bunch of 2-drops. The trebuchets are also nice win conditions too, with the knights being able to untap them. So yeah, I don't know if this is going to get to 7. Probably not, but it should be able to win a couple of games and still reaccumulate the gems that I've spent to do this draft. And opening hand, we do have Weasel back in the 7 dwarves and the Trebuchet and on play and on turn 1. And we're also on the play too, so I think I'll keep. I wish there's just ways to give evasion besides flying in this set. So yeah, it would be great if you can make like the Weasel back red cap unblockable, and you can pump and kill a bunch of stuff. But Unfortunately, that's a little bit difficult to do in this set. I think I'll just leave the 7 dwarves. Like, I could pump, but the 7 dwarves seems better here. I might consider pumping if I manage to maybe like kill something that the opponent has. If the opponent constantly misses their land drops, we can definitely punish them hard. Bargain is pretty nice, so I think I'm just going to attack and use Bargain and maybe pump the Weaselback Red Cap. I'm hoping he blocks here. Opponent is debating whether or not he wants to block. Okay. And this is a ton of damage coming in since this will have trample. We also have a red cap melee to take something out, and our curve ends at 4. So wouldn't mind just sacrificing a land anyways. I could even decide if to go maybe 15 lands in this deck to prevent too much flood, but with a thrill of possibilities, I think it's still fine going 16 in a deck like this. Ardenvale Tactician, okay. Well, here's our second 7 dwarves, and then I could even consider pumping to trade with the Weaselback Red Cap. I mean, I could, but I feel like it's just better just attack with the 7 dwarves and then keep up the Red Cap melee. I don't mind sacking a land because I can just play the Trebuchet next turn. And a 2/3 can't block the 3/3s profitably, so I can keep assaulting him with the 3/3s. So he might just have some like a pump spell to keep up next turn. So the question is, do I even want to attack? I don't mind attacking the 3/3s and keeping up Bargain and Red Cap melee. I guess he has another Ardenvale Tactician here. I guess that's fine. Now the question is, do I want to attack? If I attack, I can use Bargain to kill this, and then maybe play out the Trebuchet. Or I can just play out Trebuchet and keep up Red Cap melee, which could just be better. So yeah, let's just play out the Trebuchet. And say go. This way we can still ping the opponent and deal damage to him instead. Opponent seems to be in a white-green Adventures deck, since he's playing these Ardenvale Tacticians, and green-white is considered the archetype. So if he tries to enhance this, I'll just Red Cap melee here, sack one of my lands, and then Sir Alan is really strong, but I guess I'll just kill it with the Red Cap melee, end of turn. Perfect targets. Fine sacrificing a mountain. And then now, this is pretty insane. Yup. Yeah, seems like Mono Red can definitely get there. Draft all the 7 dwarves. But too bad we only have 4 dwarves. We don't really have 7. So yeah, let's keep this up. And I'm also hoping my videos actually help some of you improve your draft experiences overall. I don't make these videos just for nothing. Not only am I making these videos to improve my ability to draft, but also I'm hoping some of you out there actually love watching these videos, so you guys can incorporate these informations, all the relevant information that you guys need for your draft experiences to hit Mythic, or usually when your local Friday Night Magic, or show off, or clear your pod whenever you're playing with your friends. Or maybe even like be useful at GP, but I believe GP Limited is mostly start with Sealed, so Sealed is a lot more high variance than Draft for the most part. But yeah, I'm helping you guys improve your draft and gameplay as much as possible. And opening hand, well, we almost have the same opening hand as the last one, except there's no Trebuchet, but we do have a curve and we're on the draw, so I think I'm fine keeping. So blue going to be a mill or control deck, we'll see. Okay, mill deck. Those are okay mills. The Scorching Dragonfire was probably the best card he milled. He also milled a land that could have been useful, but milling these spells isn't bad since I do want to hit my land drops for the most part. Improbable lines. Okay, so he's gonna start making a bunch of whatchamacallits. I could also thrill here just to maybe hit my land drops. But I feel like the 7 dwarves is fine to get out just because it can attack past the fairies if he makes one. And he can make 2 fairies. I don't mind just sending in the 7 dwarves, and if he wants to block, I'll just use a barge in to take it out. I'm actually hoping he blocks here. Double blocks, I mean. Okay, he doesn't. So the question is, do I develop my board or do I just play out the thrill of possibilities? Given that the jousting dummy is at 1 toughness, I feel like it's better to just use thrill of possibility end of turn, discarding the jousting dummy. Or I could just play it anyways, and nah. Actually, I'll just discard the jousting dummy. Like, I know the thrill can maybe loot away a land so I don't flood later, but but if I loot away the land, I won't be able to cast maybe the Ogre Errant. I don't know, so we'll see. Thrill, just he could use this on our turn. Maybe he could use Opt on another turn. We'll see. Probably could have a red cap melee. Ooh, should I use Thrill of Possibilities early? Yeah, let's just move the attacks. I think it's fine sending in the 7 dwarves. Okay, so he'll just take it again, and I'll play a Brimstone Trebuchet. And this can be a solid way to keep pinging him. I could have thrilled end of turn, but now I guess the Knight is useful, since now I can just tap the Brimstone Trebuchet, play out the Knight to untap it. Opponent's definitely playing a lot of these Mystic Sanctuaries. Double Improbable Alliance is pretty scary. I feel like he has a red cap melee up, so I don't know if I want to attack. If I attack and use a pump trick, I can kill this Merfolk Secret Keeper, but I feel like it's better to just stay back here maybe. And just maybe win by using trebuchets. And I like having this as a nice ground blocker. So now I can give my Weasel back Red Cap Menace. But the opponent does have a really solid blue-red draw your second card matters deck, since he's casting these Tome Raiders, and double Improbable Alliance is definitely scary. So this is the archetype that now I guess I'm playing a mirror match against myself, since all I draft was nothing but blue-red in a couple of drafts I did, so it's not a really good matchup for me since a lot of my creatures are at 1 toughness. Okay, Ember of Paladin. I mean, he can always just deal with it. Yeah, I don't mind just playing this, pinging him, and then just playing out just a Paladin to untap it. I don't think I need to attack with it. I'll just stay back, and I'll punish him if he decides to attack instead, and I'll just use a Trebuchet instead. Wow, the opponent has a lot of draw outlets, so now I wish I have maybe like a Searing Barrage to take out the Merfolk Secret Keeper. But maybe I can just ping him enough with the Brimstone Trebuchets and do an alpha attack and give all my creatures trample with Bargain in order to win the game. So I'm fine playing a slow, grindy game here. The only problem is that he might just make too many 1/1s and I won't be able to kill him fast enough. Okay, could see a removal spell here. I'm hoping he doesn't kill my Trebuchet, because that's kind of like my way to deal some damage over time against him, and then I can maybe kill him with Bargain. I'm hoping he actually kills my Ember of Paladin here, because it's a human and it doesn't even have trample anyways with the Bargain. Okay, I think I'm fine with that. I'd rather have this get tapped than the Trebuchet. But he probably has a removal spell for the Trebuchet if he used on my Ogre Errant. Wondering what the opponent is thinking here. Maybe he's looking just attack with all, and I block one, and then maybe then that'll give me a window to swing back and deal a ton of damage to him. I'm hoping he attacks here with all. I don't mind blocking one and then just going from there on out, but we'll just use a Trebuchet. And then I don't mind just casting Thrill of Possibilities here. Discarding land is fine since I have a million more, 16 more in the deck. Ooh, melee can be nice to take out the Secret Keeper. But for now, I'll just activate the Trebuchet. Play land, play the Jousting Dummy, untap. And then maybe I save the Red Cap melee to take out the Merfolk Secret Keeper before end step. And then I can go for some sort of attack. Maybe he's looking for Runaway together. Choose 2 creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to your target hand. So even if I kill the Tome Raider, this will still bounce it back. So unfortunately, I think I need to activate this. So now the question is, will I be able to kill him next turn? Let's see. So if I take out the Merfolk Secret Keeper and attack with all, he could just chump block the Ember of Paladin. And then he has 3 blockers. I can give Trample and use Red Cap melee. So I don't know. Maybe I'm hoping he actually alphas here. Okay, I'll take it. Maybe this is my window to do it. So I guess I'll just attack and yeah. We'll just use Bargain to maybe kill him. I'm fine if he chumps the Ember of Paladin or at least puts 2 creatures in front of it. Yeah, I guess I can just use Bargain here. On the 7 Dwarf maybe. And just pump both my Weaselback Red Caps. I'm hoping he just doesn't have interaction here. Yeah, we got him. Sweet. Yep, Bargain getting the job done. Opponent managed to I was hoping the opponent swung all out so then I can get him at that window, but it was definitely a crucial. The game definitely had required a lot of crucial timing, so it was definitely not a brainless matchup where I just curve out and kill the opponent. I had to use the removal spell at the right time, take the risk of using the Bargain at the right time, and then having the Red Cap and having enough lands to pump my Weaselback Red Caps in order to do enough damage against the opponent. But I guess that would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, it would have been 9 damage if he didn't have interaction. So it was Xaxes. So that's how you beat a mirror match against me, guys. You just draft mono red. Make sure you don't pick up a Thorbrand, and then you also make sure you don't pick up any Searing Barrages or the whatchamacallit, the Embercleave. Just draft 7 dwarves and you'll beat me if I decide to do the whole draw 2 mechanic with the improbable alliances that the game always wants me to draft. So here's your cheat sheet for beating me. Hopefully we can curve out Weaselback Redcap into 7 dwarves again. Or at least have Weaselback Redcap in our opening hand and we have a strong curve, we'll see. Opening hand, what do we open? Well, I mean, it's no Weaselback Red Cap, but we have a 2-drop and a 3-drop. I think I'm fine leading 7 Dwarves in a Trebuchet, since I will be able to ping the opponent and then untap it with the Jousting Dummy and also have Bargain up. Crashing Drawbridge, I guess I can kill that with Bargain. He's gonna block if he does it. Am I fine with that? I mean, I guess I'd rather just play the Trebuchet. Like, I could definitely attack and use Bargain and get rid of it, but I feel like it's a turn to be mana efficient instead and get this Trebuchet out to get value from with the Jousting Dummy. Because again, I could like attack into this, he blocks it, I use Bargain, but I don't think that's I think it's better to just have the Trebuchets out in the first place. So yeah, I guess we'll just move to combat now. Don't mind using the Bargain this time just to take out the Crashing Drawbridge. No blocks, okay. Quite happy to hear that, see that. Keep in mind this only works with creatures that are attacking, so if you're not playing an aggro deck, Bargain isn't really amazing at all. But if you're constantly attacking and being aggressive, then it's great. Ooh, what's this? Yeah, I don't think this card's amazing limited. You can only cast spells only during your turn. Okay, so no instant speed, so I don't have to care about instant speed effects. You can only cast no more than 2 spells each turn. Okay, so he has a limitation, and he may cast spells with a converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control without paying their mana cost. Okay, so essentially, yeah, I guess this card isn't too bad for him, because if he can get to land 5, he can play two spells that are either 5 mana or less, and yeah, I think it's okay. Can he play another spell? I guess he can now with the Fire's Invention now. It's just a Golden Egg, okay. Sure. But he doesn't have any instant speed, so he can't punish me with, like, for example, a Searing Barrage. I'll definitely play the second 7 Dwarves here. And I'm fine just attacking with one of them. Because if I attack with both, I want to be able to... I don't want to just use my Bargain right immediately on the 7 Dwarves. I feel like it's better to use Bargain to take out the Crashing Drawbridge instead, so we'll just let him block, hopefully, the 3/3. And if he's willing to take it, then I'm quite happy with that exchange too. Okay, opponent just wants it to keep taking damage, 11. Okay, he makes food, so we're not out of woodworks yet. The opponent's game plan might just be to play control against me, since I seem to be the deck on a beatdown, and he has all these control spells like the Golden Egg and whatnot. Could see an outmuscle here. Is there any way around this? Not really. I guess he gets to outmuscle me for 3 adamant. Oh wow. Oh, I guess he doesn't spend mana to use it, so it's a 1-for-1, which I'm quite happy with as well as a great exchange. And I don't have to worry about instant speed since okay, Scorching Dragonfire is nice, but I think it's fine just using the Bargain. And I don't have to worry about instant speed due to the Fire's Invention, so I'm fine just using my Bargain here if I have to. He's holding priority the Golden Egg, so I shouldn't worry. And now I can just pump my Jousting Dummy to deal extra damage. And now, yeah, he can sack foods, but he doesn't have a board. And he doesn't have the wall anymore. And I also have removal at instant speed to punish him. If he's seriously just going to pass the turn, I'm going to be pretty happy here. Since I could just top deck lands and flood here. I should also keep in mind I should keep a land in my hand just in case I end up flooding. Which does happen in the 16 land aggro decks, believe it or not, so maybe I should have kept my mountain, but the lands do allow me to activate the Jousting Dummy multiple times. The Fire is not really an amazing limited card since it prevents you from using instant speed spells. It does dump your hand out a lot faster if you have enough lands, of course, but Unless you are looking to be aggressive and looking to win the game quickly, there's no reason to just dump your hand out ASAP. So, could see like a Searing Barrage on the Jousting Dummy. Okay, Slaying Fire is fine. He's still tapped out, and yeah. I guess he has nothing. That's pretty interesting. He probably just have non-creature spells in his hand. So hopefully I can find some creatures to eventually just kill him. And I'm already dealing 3 damage, so even if he gains his life, I guess he negates this damage, but... the damage of Brimstone Trebuchet does add up, so don't mind that. If he's going to play a non-creature spell, I'm just going to kill this. I could just activate the Cauldron instead. And he can't really activate anything at instant speed, so I think it's fine just using the Cauldron here. I mean, he can use it on his turn, but this is fine. And I'll see what else he plays here, so I'll just Dragonfire this end of turn, maybe. Could maybe exile the Wildborn Preserver instead, so he can't get it back with like a once in future. So maybe I should have done that. I used the Cauldron too haphazardly, I think. But now he could have like a once in future, but ooh, I think I need to tap the Trebuchet first. Ooh, I messed up here. Well, I guess this is a trigger on a stack, so I can just tap it before it resolves. And this is lethal, since he can't cast anything at instant speed. But I guess he can stack the egg to gain 3 life, so he still has a turn to survive, but he's definitely not in great shape, since the Trebuchet will just close out the game for me, and he has 2 cards left. Yep, so we got there. Would love maybe like a Rampart Smash in this deck, since I was going mono red, or any other nice signpost uncommon, dual color signpost uncommons that award you for being mono colored. Those would have been pretty nice. But I'm surprised we're currently 3-0. I guess aggro isn't unplayable in this set. Definitely not. I think aggro's a lot worse in this set compared to Zendikar Rising, obviously, due to the life gain and removal and large creatures in green. But it definitely can punish you if you miss a land drop. So yeah, aggro's not unplayable, but definitely has its weaknesses in the set. But here we'll just keep a Weasel back into Jousting Dummy. Why not? Perfect curve. 1 mana, maybe for like a fairy. Okay, it's fine with me. Don't know if I even want to trade off my Weaselback Red Cap. I could just use Thrill Possibilities end of turns. I know I can play the Jousting Dummy, but I feel like the Jousting Dummy isn't even going to attack past the Fairy Guy Mutter. I mean, I could just offer to trade. Why not? Maybe offering to trade is okay here. Because if he does miss a creature, we can at least attack him for 2. And then maybe I can decide if I want to Thrill next turn. Okay, opponent's just playing out a bunch of 2-drops. Good Red Cap melee. I think I'll play the Cauldron, play land, and say go. I don't really want to trade yet because I don't really have a creature to follow up with the Jousting Dummy. And I'll decide whether or not I want to trade next turn depending on what I draw. I think I'll kill that maybe. I could block this and trade, which I don't mind. But I also just don't mind taking 2. I can always Red Cap melee next turn. And then I'll just thrill this turn just to ditch the mountain in case I flood out. And again, my curve ends at 4, so I don't really care if I take too much. And yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, I don't mind just using 7 dwarves here, and I can just maybe just melee away this wall and get in for 2. I'm at a low land count, but keep in mind my curve ends at 4, so I don't mind just losing land here. I can even just draw into 1 eventually with the Golden Egg and Scorching Dragonfire, so no reason to block. He could also have the untap trick, but with Scorching Dragonfire, I should be able to deal with him. Ooh, and second 7 dwarves, okay. He could have the outflank to deal with the Jousting Dummy, but I think it's better to just play the second 7 dwarves, and I don't care if the Jousting Dummy dies. What's this? An Ardenvale Tactician? Okay. Now he's disincentivized to attack with the 2-1. And he's missing his land drops, so we can definitely punish him here pretty severely. I think I'm just fine attacking, fine with the trade. And if he wants a double block, I can definitely punish him if he goes for that route. It's okay, no punish. Can play out the Golden Egg, but I guess I'll keep up the Cauldron instead in case he plays the Ardenvale Tactician. And I can just keep attacking with 3/3s, but he's missing his land drops, so yeah. Mono Red does it again. Okay, 7 dwarves, Clockwork Servants. Okay, I guess if we hit our land, third land, we can curve out with the. We can maybe lead with the Brimstone Trebuchet and the Clockwork Servant. I'm not gonna say no to a hand with 7 dwarves since the damage does add up. Opponent's on the play though, so we'll see. He also had the Mulligan, so that's a nice upside for me. So I think I might just lead with the 7 dwarves and then maybe Clockwork Servant. Although the Piper is gonna be pretty scary. So I don't mind just attacking next turn and clearing the Piper because I'd be happy to. I think I'll leave with the Clockwork Servants, so this makes it likely that I get my land drop. So I can eventually just force the Piper to attack and just take it out. And I guess this is another game where my opponent misses their land drops. Okay, so I could just use the Cauldron here and take out the Piper, which I don't mind, and I can attack for 2. Alternatively, I can just add attack with both. If he decides to double block, I'll just use a Bargain and cast a 3-drop. That sounds better. Let's just try that instead. I'm fine with double block, and if he doesn't trade or block, I'll just, yep, let's just use the Bargain. And this way we'll be able to, maybe play out the Trebuchet, or I can just play out the Raging Redcap. And, maybe force the Piper to block, so I can double strike and kill it. Huh. I guess I have my other creatures to attack on the ground next turn anyways for it, so we'll play out the Trebuchet and get some value to Raging Redcap instead. Lost Legion we can take out with the Scalding Cauldron. That's nice. Do I want to use the Bargain again? But I guess I'd rather use the Cauldron on the 1-3 anyways, so why am I even thinking so hard about this? Yeah, let's just activate the Brimstone Trebuchet. Play out the Red Cap Raiders. Yeah, I'm fine using Bargain maybe. Let's just move to combat. And use Bargain on whatever he decides to block here. I love these Bargains, they're really amazing in these mono red aggro decks. I mean, it's amazing in red-green in general. But now we have the Cauldron to take out the Piper or any other 3 toughness creatures that get in our way. And the opponent's also stuck in their land drops, so I think we have this. Witch's Oven, I guess, can stack things and make food. This is sorcery speed, so I can't really activate it. Okay, I don't mind just using the Scorching Dragonfire here, or the Cauldron is just better, I guess, right? So, yeah, let's just activate the Cauldron. He's gonna make a food and make a rat, but I don't really care. At least I can shut down this engine. The question is it lethal? Let's see. If I take out the rat, is it lethal? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, it's not lethal, so I guess I'm just fine attacking. Sending in all. And he's either forced to make food end of turn or taking it here, which is too much damage, I think. And the Brimstone Trebuchet has a 3-turn clock on him too, so yeah, we got him. Alright, I'm happy with this draft. It's a new archetype that I haven't showcased yet. It has a really insane win rate, 5-0, and I'm quite surprised this deck even managed to overperform. So this is kind of proof how that aggro can definitely, aggro and monocolored can definitely be pretty solid in this set. I was a little bit down on aggro in this set due to the fact that, again, there's a lot of life gain with the foods, high toughness creatures, and removal, but it seems like if the opponent misses on their land drops, you can just win by smashing them with a bunch of 2-drops, Bargain. And monocolor also makes it easier and likely for us to cast our spells, so that's another upside of being monocolored. Haven't drafted I don't think there's any video where I drafted monocolored yet and got to 7. But this could just be the video. And the cards I haven't seen yet, I haven't seen the Bone Crusher Giant yet. What else have I not seen yet? I guess I've seen the Ogre Aaron. I casted that. Yeah, so I've seen every single card in this deck besides the Bone Crusher Giant. So far, I just saw the Goblin, the 1/2 double strike last game already. So I think I saw all of our removal, the Scorching Dragonfires, Red Cap Melee, the Scalding Cauldrons, and Double Bargain already. So just need to see our pack 1 pick 1. Okay, 7 dwarves, Bone Crusher. Yeah, we finally see him. So he can be a removal spell slash creature, and then with 3 lands, I think it's definitely possible. It's definitely gonna be pretty easy to get to land 4 for the Ember of Paladin. So I think we keep. And I'm fine leading out the 7 dwarves since Jousting Dummy can have more utility in the late game. I guess as utility of the Brimstone Trebuchet. So Demir, okay, I love leading with the 7 dwarves, and since there's no creatures in my graveyard, I don't have to be aware of any drawn in the locks or anything. And if he misses land drop, I'm just going to play out the 7 dwarves and smash for 3. Could see a Charm Sleep here. Reef Soul instead, okay. So now the question is what? I think I'm fine curving out with the Brimstone Trebuchet because I'll be able to tap it and then next turn play out the Ember of Shieldbreaker, untap and tap again and hit him for a lot of damage. But if he keeps up all of his mana, it could just be a counter spell. Okay. I think that's fine since the Ember of Paladin is going to deal a ton of damage anyway, so I don't really care. We don't have too many large creatures, but maybe the Ember Paladin and Bone Crusher Giant can deal enough that we can handle it. Now, Sir Eleanor is really annoying, since he will be able to block off the Ember Paladin quite effectively. Yeah, it would have been nice to... Oh, I guess we can Bone Crusher Giant and Scorching Dragonfire. I guess... yeah, it just costs 2 more to cast, so I guess I'm forced to attack and trade. Which I don't necessarily want, but I think I have to since I can't really target Sir Eleonora. And yeah, I guess I don't mind just using the Brimstone Trebuchet, Jousting Dummy to untap it, and then just play out the 7 dwarves and say go. I can still attack him for 1 per turn with the 2 powered creatures, so I don't hate just attacking either way. Because I know it is kind of slow, but regardless, it is. I mean, every damage matters in an aggro deck, so I think I'm going to go for it. It would suck though if he has a removal spell, so we'll see. And then now what we can do is we can activate the Trebuchet, and I could just play the Weaselback Red Cap. I guess I'd rather have the Raging Red Cap get countered because I don't really have a way to pump it. So I'm fine just doing this. Activate Trebuchet. Play the Weaselback Red Cap. Activate Trebuchet. Could just see... I mean, he could have... I mean, I don't know why he's keeping up all his mana. I was afraid of a Lockmere Serpent, but since he took the damage anyways, there was no Lockmere Serpent, and yeah. So next turn we can deal 3 damage to him, plus 4, so that's 7 damage, and 8 plus the Brimstone Trebuchet, so he does need a blocker. And Anime Fairy is definitely okay, but we'll just shock it with a Bone Crusher Giant. I'm hoping he just taps out here so I can use both of my removal spells. Maybe he just uses a removal spell on the Brimstone Trebuchet. Could just see a Bacon to apply. I think I'll just use Scorching maybe on the Animating Fairy, so then my Bone Crusher Giant might be able to resolve. Pretty interesting, or I can just activate end of turn. Bone Crusher is pretty effective at 2 mana, but he could be keeping up a Didn't Say Please, which can be really annoying. I guess, yeah, I guess I'll use the Bone Crusher since I'll be able to cast him too. Bit risky, but I think I'm fine doing it. Hopefully he doesn't have Didn't Say Please. I think he's planning to bake the Brimstone Trebuchet. I don't mind just bounce. I don't mind the bounce though. I mean, yeah, I guess he does save it, but I guess I can just recast my knight. And I can still get in for 1. I mean 2, I mean. I could have Scorching Dragon fired on this. But then, I guess even if I Scorching Dragon fire on the Animating Fairy, the Bone Crusher Giant won't have a viable target, so it would fizzle anyway. So, yeah, I guess it was fine just letting it resolve. Sage of the Falls, okay. So unless he has a runaway together, I don't know how he can win because I mean, unless he chumps my Weaselback Red Cap, I don't know if he can beat me because this is gonna do enough damage, I think, to finish him off. Let's say I attack with Vol, he blocks the 2-1. Yeah, I think it's lethal if he doesn't deal with the Weaselback Red Cap here. I guess he's just gonna cast the Animating Fairy instead. Seems reasonable. Probably going to kill the Weaselback. It feels like that's the right choice. Or the Brimstone. The Brimstone is probably the right choice for him to take out. I'm surprised he killed that one. I don't think that's the correct choice. I think the Weaselback was definitely the right choice. I guess, yeah, he had enough to kill everything here. Or I think the Brimstone Trebuchet might be the correct choice. Yeah, I feel like the Brimstone Trebuchet is the correct choice. So if we attack with Vol, he goes up to 7. He's guaranteed to take at least 2, 3, I guess. Step back down to 4. He can trade for my Weaselback Red Cap. Might not be necessary. I think it's fine just playing out land and then I guess I can just attack with the Weaselback Red Cap. He does gain a life, but I do want to take out the Sage if I can, so yeah, I'll go for it. Because attacking with Vol would not accomplish anything, he still gets 1 good block. And then next turn I can just take out the Animating Fairy. And I can just take it out end of his turn. And then ping him, and then just attack again with both of my creatures. I guess pumping a Jousting Dummy is lethal. So unless he top decks like another creature here, I don't know how he can win. He's holding on to priority, so he has another spell. That's pretty annoying. Does he have another runaway together? I guess he might. Yeah, he might just have another removal spell here, and the question is, should I attack then? Maybe he's just holding on to full control to debate me into something. I mean, there's no harm in attacking. He does gain 2 life, but I get to offset it with the 7 dwarves anyways, and the Brimstone Trebuchet. So I think I go for it. He could just be holding on to full control to bait me into doing something here, but this is lethal if he doesn't answer the Jousting Dummy. So we'll see. Oh, I guess he was holding on to full control the whole time. Okay, so final boss, Mono Red, getting the job done. Yeah, surprisingly, we managed to get to 6-0 with this. I've definitely drafted a lot of powerful 2-color decks, and yeah, this is very surprising. So let's just do a quick overview of this deck before we move on to the final boss. Yeah, just a Mono Red Aggro deck I'm going to add to my inventory because it's very successful. so far. And yep, 16 lands. The reason why we're going 16 lands is because we also have Golden Egg and Thrill of Possibilities in order to help us maybe prevent a little bit of flood, even in a 16 land deck. In a typical deck like this, if I didn't have a card like Thrill of Possibility, or even Golden Egg, or even Clockwork Servant to help me draw cards in order to hit my land drops and find spells, I would probably just run 15 lands and say screw it, but with Thrill and Golden Egg and Clockwork Serpent, I'm happy doing so. In terms of removal interaction, we have Double Bargain, which have been surprisingly effective with some of our creatures, since it gives trample to all non-human creatures that are attacking. Um, so, um, so even if you have so even if you use this on one non-human creature and it doesn't deal enough trample damage to close out the opponent, all of your other non-human creatures gain trample, so it can effectively steal the game like one of the games, like the blue-red control deck we played against. And then we also have Red Cat Melee, which is really efficient for one red. Just being able to deal 4 damage is definitely a lot high, which is definitely has a lot more upside than dealing 3 damage. Like um, like the Scorching Dragonfire. And sacrificing a land isn't too bad because we are running 16 lands. We can be prone to flood in a deck that curves out at 4. And typically speaking, even if you sack a land in the late game, it really doesn't matter too much. So yeah, it's a nice, decent way to not take out a large creature for a very cheap for one solid red, and then sacrificing land is not a big deal. So in the late game, so red cat melee is great. Calling Cauldron not too great, but it's interaction if we need one, especially in a mono red deck where you're only focused on single color. It's nice to have some of these generic spells that you can play with any mana. It's an interaction if you need one, and it can be pretty. It can kill something. It does kill something most of the time, since most of the creatures are at 3 toughness, and 4 toughness is kind of the sweet spot in the set for surviving most ground attackers and red and damage based removal spells. But yeah, Cauldron still effectively kills most things, but it's still 1 mana. It's still 4 mana to deal 3 damage to target creature, which isn't great, but it is still interaction, and in limited, if you don't have enough playables, just having enough, sometimes just having even the not so amazing removal spells can be fine. And then Scorching Dragonfire, always excellent. Definitely a lot worse than Red Cat Melee, but this does come with some upside since it exiles and it's also at instant speed. And it can also target Planeswalkers, which could be or could not be relevant. In this set, there's a couple of Planeswalkers, but usually you're thinking about creatures with this. And then we also have Bone Crusher Giant, which functions as a sort of a removal spell split card. Removal spells and creature, so this is a pretty excellent card and our first pick. Blow Your House Down, we're just playing, so we can run 16 lands. It's not a card I'm happy to be playing. I don't really want to play Crystal Slipper though, since I don't think giving a creature +1/+0 in haste for I guess it can be fine in an aggro deck like this, but Blow Your House could have some utility in the late game if we run our removal spells and we run out of ways to get through damage. Just having a nice way to um, quote unquote tap 3 creatures down, making them unable to block, almost like tapping them down and destroying, and can maybe lead us to victory. But it also comes with an upside of destroying walls like Brimstone Trebuchet. But most of the time, you're just using this to just try to get in the final points of damage. And then yeah, we have a decent number of 1 and 2 drops. Weaselback Redcap, not great on turn 1, but it's a 1 drop regardless. That might chip in little points of damage in the early game, but it can be pretty effective in the late game since you can still pump it and allow this to trade up. So this can be a pretty problematic creature later on. And then Ember Shieldbreaker can be a nice split card, just like the Bone Crusher Giant being an adventure creature. It can target annoying artifact creatures like quarter monitors and big ground blockers and even other artifacts. And being able to cast this as a 2/1 can be pretty solid sometimes. Since it's a knight which has solid knight synergy with the Brimstone Trebuchets and then the quadruple 7 dwarves. Even if we don't draw all 4, just having like 2 7 dwarves out in the battlefield is already pretty annoying, since a 2-mana 3/3 is pretty efficient at attacking and blocking early on. Jousting Dummy, fine massing, just like the Weaselback Red Cap, but nothing exciting. Just playing it because it has Night Synergy for the Brimstone Trebuchets if we pick them up, and the Ogre Errant, which can enable Menace for them. And then we're also playing Clockwork Servant, which is going to be at its best in a monocolored deck, since it also replaces itself and draws a card. And then, yeah, nothing much, just not too much top end. I think our game win conditions is just killing them quickly with our 2-drops, especially the 7 dwarves, pinging them to death with the Brimstone Trebuchets, and that's pretty much it. Just curving out, killing the opponent, and I guess Bargain can be kind of like a win con too, giving our creatures trample and taking out a large toughness blockers if we need to. So, yep, quite impressed with this deck so far. I drafted a lot of 2-color decks that were really powerful in Throne of Eldraine, especially at Mythic rank, and I definitely had some of the opponents did give me a run for their money, since I definitely underperformed with the 2-color decks, and even though they were really powerful, sometimes they don't even get up to 7 wins. But I'm surprised just drafting a bunch of commons and going mono red can lead to like a 6-0 deck currently. So yeah, very, very surprising so far, especially in a set that rewards you mostly with for playing a grindy control decks, since there's a lot of life gain and high toughness creatures and removal in those colors. But yeah, I think red is kind of like the medium color in this set. I think the best color is green, followed up by black, and then red is kind of in the middle, and then blue is like second to last. And then white is probably the worst color in this set overall. But yeah, we managed to get 6-0. Let's take on the final boss, and yeah, finally upload our first mono colored draft video. So we played against 2 solid control decks. The Is It Draw Your Second Cards Matter archetype. I think that was our second opponent. And then the last game was also the blue-black control deck. And we still managed to beat them. The Draw Your 2 archetype was definitely a more difficult opponent, where I only had a single window to maybe kill him. But yeah, it was definitely a pretty really solid, well-rounded deck that I could have easily lost to. So, good thing about aggro, you punish the opponent for missing their land drops. You get onto the board early, but the bad thing about aggro, again, there's just a lot of life link in this set. And I mean, not life link, life gain with the food support in this set. Lots of big creatures in green that can halt you, and high toughness creatures as well in blue. And yeah, just the removal spells. And just common removal spells on all the colors are pretty annoying to deal with. But yeah, let's face our final boss. Maybe get 7-0, and we'll go from there. And yeah, happy can to keep. 7 dwarves. Always happy to have 1 copy in my opening hand, and then Bone Crusher Giant can give us flexibility for dealing 2 damage. Throw a possibility, a card that's better in late game, but with 3 mountains, I eventually will just dump our whole hand, and then we can just discard future mountains to hit our spells. But being on the plate is nice with this. Would have been better with a Weaselback Red Cap, but yep. I guess I can even play out the Bone Crusher Giant if I want to on turn 3, but I feel like having the flexibility of having a removal spell is better. But Black-Green is a much more grindier deck that has high toughness creatures, so I don't know how effective Bone Crusher Giant will be. So I guess I'm just happy attacking for 2 for now, and just playing out the Raging Red Cap. The Bone Crusher Giant can definitely deal more damage, but this is still fine, I think. He's mostly going to play a 3 toughness blocker in this scenario. And yeah, the Bone Crusher Giant can be pretty nice, just being able to effectively, you know, enable first strike. Here, yeah, here I feel like I can just use a Cauldron, since it's 4 mana, and this is the perfect target to use on the for the Cauldron. I'm just going to use it now because it's not a really good card, and I might as well use bad cards early on to take out like efficient cards like Rosethorn Acolyte right away. This card can just help him ramp out like a Garenbrick Paladin on turn 5, which I definitely don't want to see. So just happy tapping out for the Cauldron and getting in for 4 currently. And then we can use Red Cap melee to maybe finish off a Fierce Witch Stalker or something. Might even just use Bone Crusher to shoot his face if he doesn't play anything. I mean, it's not a bad idea, right? I can just shoot him in the face for 2 and then play him out. Yeah, I guess I'll try that. I mean, what else am I going to do with 2 damage against a black-green Foods deck? Or Sotai, he could be splashing for Oko, which can be definitely very scary. The Troll, so if I tap the Troll, he gains 3 life, and he doesn't have a blocker, so then he'll go up to 11, he draws a card, and hopefully he doesn't have a Soul Tiny or anything. So if he goes up to 11, we attack him for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so it's lethal. No, he'll have 3 toughness left, but yeah, I think I make him sack a sack to do this, and then I guess I'm fine just attacking with all. Or I can just thrill here. Maybe just thrilling the Jousting Dummy can be okay. Yeah, let's thrill. There's a chance I find a Bargain for my Raging Red Cap, and that can help me win the game, and there it is. So yeah, let's just move to combat. And then hopefully he doesn't have a Soul Tiny here. And then this is lethal. Alright, sweet. Got 7-0. Bargain managed to do it. And then, yeah, through the possibilities, fetching up one of our Bargains helped us seal the game. And then we got from, I think, 95% to 98 or 94. So, yep, 7-win mono-red aggro deck. Not something that you see too often, but here it is. And yeah, let's claim our prize. And let's pretend we're drafting another Throne of Eldraine Premier Draft, or just not Premier Draft. Let's just pretend we're drafting Throne of Eldraine with 6 packs here. And opening hand, what do we have the fine pleasure of opening for our draft? Canvas Transformation is okay. It does replace itself and draw a card, but usually using this on opponent's creatures is super amazing, since they still have a 3/3 creature, which is a definitely relevant attacker and blocker at times, so it's not really super amazing. You can also use this to enhance your creature, so it has the upside of doing that, but it's just an okay card. It's not very impressive. It's not the worst card, though, but just not great. I think the best card in this pack is by far Once in the Future as a powerful 2-for-1 in the late game, if you can enable Adamant. And even if you don't enable Adamant, sure, you miss out on your draw step, but hey, you get 2 of your best cards from your graveyard, 1 back into your hand and 1 on top of your library, so Once in the Future is definitely a very amazing, powerful card. Reaper of Night, also a big fan of this card. A nice modal, not modal dual face card. Sorry, this isn't Zendikar Rising. It's just a nice split card. You know, you use 4 mana to make them discard 2 in the mid game, and then in the late game, this can be a powerful curve topper that can help you finish the opponent off if they don't have any flyers or removal. So Reaper of Night's pretty solid. And I like how I finished my whole collection of whatchamacallit, Throne of Eldraine, so now I get to collect gems, and 40 is a lot. Okay, in this pack, Improbable Lines, Arcanist Owl, and Reef Soul are the best cards. There's also 7 Dwarves, but I wouldn't take it over any of these other 3 cards. And I think the best card in this pack, I mean, both Arcanist Owl and Improbable Lines are great. Arcanist Owl is a nice payoff card for the nice payoff and enabler for the artifacts deck, since it can find you an artifact or enchantment, and those can be removal spells or creatures in this set, so this can be pretty nice. But yeah, it's a little bit harder to get the blue-white deck, in my opinion, in this set over the blue-red draw your second card's matter archetype. In Improbable Lines, you can just play on 2. It's not only a payoff for the draw your second card's matter archetype, but it's also an enabler on turn 6. And usually at common, it's much more easier to draw cards than it is to find artifact creatures. I mean, yeah, them finding artifact creatures that are great or enchantment spells that are good. Most of the enchantment spells that are good are mostly just going to be removal spells like Trapped in the Tower or Charm Sleep or So Tiny. And then the artifact creatures that are amazing in this set, I mean, they're mostly at uncommon or rare. Most of the common spells that are most of the common artifact creatures aren't too great. I hate to say it, but the Quarter Monitor is not great. Jousting Dummy isn't that great. Um, the best artifacts at common are probably like Witching Well. Scalding Cauldron isn't super amazing too, so it's not that great. So yeah, Arcanist Owl, great card, but it still requires a little bit more work to get going, and it's a lot harder to get going compared to the Improbable Lines. Probably pack one, pick one. I'll probably take Improbable Lines here. I know Reef Soul can keep me open, but the upside of Improbable Lines is a lot higher than Reef Soul, and Blue-Red is a very strong archetype in this set. So I would probably abandon flexibility and maybe force the Blue-Red deck since this is a really powerful enabler payoff, and it's easy to get going at common generally, while the Arcanist Owl a little bit more difficult to get going, but still also an amazing payoff. Sometimes an enabler for artifacts, but I think the Improbable Alliance is the pick here. And also, generally speaking, about the last pack, white is kind of the worst color in the set, so you don't really want to gravitate too much into white. Here, this pack just sucks. There's a Burning Yard Trainer, which is an okay card. Definitely best in some sort of Knights deck, and it's a decent build around. I mean, a decent payoff for going Knights since it gives your Knight creatures a Bargain. I guess it's not Bargain. I guess since Bargain is just a lot better since it gives all your non-human creatures trample, while this only gives a single 2/2 Knight trample, but it's still a fine card, just not super exciting. Carriage, also not very exciting. It's also an okay card. Just at least this can fit in any deck. Creating a 2/1 Mouses can maybe serve as chump blockers. A 4-power attacker and blocker is quite relevant in the late game. But generally speaking, Enchanted Carriage is not super amazing if you end up in green, since most of your green creatures at the top end tend to be larger, like the Garen Break Paladin, the Keeper of Fables, and the Toonvale Tree Folk. And also the Fierce Witch Stalker is already a 4-mana 4/4. So Enchanted Carriage, if you're not going to be playing in green, can be a pretty solid curve topper. But overall, it's not very amazing green. This pack just sucks, you know. I'd probably just take the Enchanted Carriage to stay open if it was a pack one, pick one. But probably the pick would probably go Enchanted Carriage, Burning Yard Trainer, and probably a sad Outflank. Outflank, unlike Practice Tactics in Zendikar Rising, Outflank only deals 1 damage to the opponent per creatures that you control. Practice Tactics is just a lot better because with us, even a single party creature, it already deals 2 damage, which is a huge difference. Outflank is just, yeah, not great. It can be efficient at at times, but the opponent still gets to block off a creature, and yeah, you could still run into the weird circumstance where you have enough to kill a creature, but then they have an instant speed removal spell to take out one of your creatures, and this doesn't deal enough to finish it off, and that can be kind of awkward. So, yeah, not a big fan of Outflank, but I would take an Enchanted Carriage just to stay open, pack one, pick one. This pack also sucks. Witch's Oven versus Rimrock Knight. Witch's Oven, this is the card that pairs well with the Cauldron's Familiar, which can be a pretty solid combo. Overall, I do like the Witch's Oven for having its unique effect, and I'd be happy playing this in a green deck since green has a lot of 4-power greater, and if you end up in green-blue or green-black, those are usually the archetypes that have the most food synergy. Green black undoubtedly the archetype that has that's more focused on food than green blue, but yeah, I wouldn't mind taking a Witch's Oven. The best common is like a Rimrock Knight to force some sort of aggro game plan, but even then it's not super amazing. I'd be happy to be, even if our mono red deck we didn't necessarily need it, but it would have been a nice card, I have to say, for our deck. The only problem is that it can't block, and yeah, it just can't block. And it's a fine card though. It acts as a pump trick. And then you can play a 3/1, which can help you develop the board of attackers. But it's not great unless you're ahead, and it's not great if your deck isn't focused on attacking. So probably just take the Witch's Oven. Okay, best cards, Drown in the Lock. I guess there's a Cauldron's Familiar to pair with our Witch's Oven. But yeah, about Drown in the Lock, it's a great card, but only if you can enable Mill for the onto the opponent's graveyard. I wouldn't necessarily play blue-black unless I can enable stuff into the opponent's graveyard. So cards like Drown in the Lock typically get better if you can just mill the opponent outright, since this is very flexible as a counter spell and a spot removal spell if it manages to slip through the cracks, metaphorically speaking. But yeah, probably Drown in the Lock is the best card in the pack, and Cauldron's Familiar if you can get a Witch's Oven for it. Wicked Guardian, Merrily Friar, solid playables, but definitely not very exciting. And yeah, between Glass Casket and Beanstalk Giant, I have to imagine the Beanstalk Giant, because not only can this allow you to splash, but it's also in the best color in the set, which is green. And then your reward is getting a giant green creature in the late game, which can be pretty problematic to deal with. Um, the Glass Cask is also a fine card. So this is also a white removal spell, but usually it's still kind of conditional. It's almost like Reeve Soul, where it only targets specific creatures. And yeah, I guess I still don't hate Glass Casket. There's plenty of mana cost 3 or less in the set, so it's mostly going to find a target. And it also exiles, so it gets it off the battlefield, unlike Trapped in the Tower. But white is the worst color in this set. Glass Cask is still conditional, and I'd rather just take the Beanstalk Giant, but it's a solid card regardless. So there you have it, our nice 7-0 video with a mono red deck. I think I'm just going to grind some gold and then do some Theros Beyond Death after this video, and I might just fire off one more Throne of Eldraine before we move back into Zendikar Rising. But in the meantime, I'm hoping you guys enjoy my videos and content, and have a great day. Take care. Bye.